I'm Duncan Hendry. I'm Chief Executive of the Kingston Festival Theatres, and I'm in charge of running the two theatres, of programming them and leading the team that manages these great theatres. I was applying for jobs when I was at university. I had very long hair, which didn't help me get a job. As soon as I got it cut, I managed to get a job from my first interview after that with a company called Unicorn Leisure, who at that time were running venues in Edinburgh and Glasgow. The biggest venue was the Apollo in Glasgow, which had all the major concerts of the day there. One of my first jobs was telling people at a Rolling Stones concert not to stand on the seats. And they ran clubs, nightclubs, managed performers like Billy Connolly, Midure and various others. I was lucky enough to get a job as artistic director of a music and comedy festival called the Aberdeen Alternative Festival. It was a 10-day festival, annual festival that we had a contract through the whole year to programme it and build it up. So I ended up doing that for about 10 years, through to the late 1990s, and we put on major comedy acts and music acts, jazz bands from Dave Brubeck, Modern Jazz Quartet, Art Blakey, Emmylou Harris played it, and probably the biggest act we had was James Brown played his first ever concert in Scotland as part of that festival in 1993. Well, I suppose producing a festival's in itself is a really strange thing. You work on it all year, you program it, and then you get to about 2 or 3 months before the festival happens, and I always felt it was like getting on a helter-skelter, and you got on at the top and you couldn't actually get off until you got to the bottom, and at the end of the festival, even if you wanted to bail out halfway through, you couldn't do it. It was always an exciting, fast ride that took you through those 2 or 3 months. After doing that for about 10 years, I thought that's probably long enough to run a festival. I then got a job running the major concert hall in town, the music hall. And a year after that, I was promoted and given a job of running the major council venues in Aberdeen. When I was given that job, I set 2 targets. One was to redevelop His Majesty's Theatre, which was in a poor state of repair or could have been closed down. So first target was to redevelop that, rejuvenate it. Second target was to take the venues out of council management into an arm's length trust. So I spent the next 4 or 5 years of my life working on that, which were major projects. Like the redevelopment of the theatre was an £8 million lottery project. We built a contemporary extension on an Edwardian building, which was controversial. People didn't like the plans when they saw them, but when the building was built, it won awards and people loved it. We developed it into one of the biggest arts organisations in the country, employing 300 people, turnover of £10 million a year. We staged about 1,000 performances each year, 500,000 customers. When we were planning to redevelop the theatre in Aberdeen, it was suggested it would be a great idea if we had a royal patron. Of course. So I was asked to contact Buckingham Palace and see if we could get a royal patron, and they came back and said, well, Prince Edward might be interested. Could we meet up? Would you like to come for tea at Buckingham Palace? So I turned up to the gates of Buckingham Palace, tugged at the policeman's sleeve and said, I'm here for tea with Prince Edward, and had a lovely chat with him, and he agreed to be our patron for a number of years and help with the fundraising for the redevelopment of the theatre. We've had we've got all sorts of things happen through the course of this year, but Shiva Ensemble being probably one of the examples where we have a political situation crop up where with Palestinian protesters trying to stop the performance and persuade people not to go to the performance, boycott it. So that was that was an interesting experience, but our operational staff handled that so expertly and professionally that from my point of view, it was not, it wasn't something that I ever had any really concerns that that show wouldn't happen or wouldn't happen in a safe way. I remember my uncle saying to me a phrase, "Faint heart never won fair maiden," and I suppose I've applied that in my not only my personal life but also in my business life, and what I mean by that is that if you think, wouldn't it be great to have a particular show or a particular act, or then go for it. You never know. Like the James Brown example, okay, it was a difficult experience, but one of the world's iconic music stars, and we managed to get him to a little known festival in the back of nowhere. So don't be scared to ask and go for it, and really be brave enough to think the impossible and then try and deliver it. So I suppose that would be the major thing that occurs to me, that people who are brave enough to do those things quite often get away with it and bring great work and great art to the stages. Follow your instincts and follow the things that you love doing. I was in the fortunate position of having an opportunity to do what I wanted to do when I was in my mid-20s, and so if you get that opportunity, then seize it and go with the things that you're passionate about and that you love doing. And I haven't really had any real plan to my career. I've just gone with the things that I really wanted to do at a particular time, and that has sort of taken me along a path, a journey that has been exciting and rewarding, and in all sorts of ways. So I've had the privilege and pleasure of doing stuff that I just would hardly imagine I could possibly do, and so it's been an interesting journey and a fascinating journey. So if you get that opportunity, seize it and go with the stuff that you love doing and are passionate about.